Hey guys, Caroline7 again. This time a review of the 144 scale high-grade Strike Noir Gundam from the Stargazer OVA series. And first of all, unlike its sibling units, it's a completely new unit and is in no way a remold of the old Strike Gundam. Thank God for that. So for color scheme, as its name suggests, it's a quite dark machine. We have a lot of really cool looking black all over the machine, set off with two shades of gray. We have a lighter gray for most of the body, the arms, the legs, part of his backpack, and then we have a darker gray for the joints, and then we have a kind of bluish gray, you can see here on his shorty beam rifles and also on the handles of his beam blades. Then of course we also have some red here on his chest and on the V-fin, because nothing goes better with black than red. And finally we also have some kind of orangey yellow here for the V-fin and also for the vents on his chest. And then some small details right here on his linear cannons. Then of course we also get a few stickers, but considering the time, I would say that all of these are completely understandable. As always, we of course get the eye stickers, then we get the big black ones that go right on there, then we have the red ones that go there, and these are 2 stickers each. Then we have the yellow triangles that go on his shoulder armor, and finally we also get the gray, well, the big gray one here that wraps around the waist right there. So overall, color accuracy for the time with the inclusion of the stickers does an okay job. You're still going to need a little bit of painting here and there, some gray for the V-fin, for the shoulders, then some red for the insides of the thrusters, black right there. But overall, compared to, you know, the original high grade of the Strike Gundam, it's pretty damn good. Then we get to something that's a bit better than pretty good. The head goes up nicely, down, left to right, about that far, and then forwards and backwards chicken movement. Then the arms. Oh my god, the arms go up like that on a double ball joint, forwards and backwards a bit, rotate around, bent at the elbow at one joint. The hands are, as always, on ball joints, but now we actually have an extra joint in there, which is going to be really sweet for posing it with the guns. The only problem is it's plastic rubbing against plastic, and the same goes for the twin ball joints that make up the shoulder. So as amazing as the articulation in the arms is, you're definitely gonna have to watch out that you're not posing this guy too much, because there is a very real risk of wearing out those joints. And with the amounts of poses this guy can pull, that is a very real concern. And the waist rotates around about that far when it's just flat, and if you pull it out, it is going to rotate around all the way. The legs go forwards nicely like that. Front skirts, as always, molded together, can be separated. Then backward about that far. We'll rotate around nicely, go out all the way like that. And of course, we have the usual swivel joint, which also hides a peg for an action base, which will also be included with this thing. Then the knees are double jointed, and man, for the time, that knee joint was amazing. The feet go forwards nicely, backwards also very nicely. We have the usual double joint, hinge at the top, ball joint at the bottom, something that has been standard for a long time. Rotate around almost all the way, and we'll also go side to side very nicely on that ball joint. Now we of course get to the articulation of the backpack, and man, is this thing articulated. First of all, we have a hinge right there, then it also rotates around right there. We have another rotation up there, we'll rotate around all the way. But so, in order to put it the right way, this just has to go like that. Then it folds over there, and here we have the usual pose for the Strike Noir in its flying mode. The sword here will also slide out nicely. The handle is movable, so you can put it as a sword handle or as a very small caliber beam gun. And finally, we also have the linear guns right there. Will fold out you can turn them around, pose them either going over the wings or under the wings. And as if that wasn't enough, they can also rotate around side to side in order to find their target. On to accessories, and since I've already shown off the linear guns on the wings, let's go on with what else is on the wings. The beam blades. Simply slide out, very simple design, not a lot of detailing going on there. Then you get the beam effect parts, one for each of the beam blades, and there you go. One thing I always found a bit unfortunate about the Strike Noir's beam blades is that compared to the Sword Striker, the beam effect part is a bit on the shorter side. I would have really loved it if it was like the Impulse's Excalibur swords, where the entire sword was covered in the beam effect part. Fortunately, he's able to hold on to it absolutely fine. And of course, this handle here also rotates up and down. Then the next accessories are on his hips. The shorty beam rifles, replacing the Armor Schneider of the Strike Gundam. And for these beam guns, we do get dedicated trigger finger hands. Unfortunately, they have to share the hand covers of the holding hands. For some reason, they only decided to give us 2 of those hand covers for this pair of hands. Kind of weird considering that this isn't a remold of the original Strike, so they didn't really have to, you know, skimp out on these covers. They could have just given us the 4. But yeah, once again, just as with the beam blades, these fit into the hands absolutely perfectly. And that's a very good thing, because this is absolutely going to be your weapon of choice with the Strike Noir. Because really, how many mobile suits come with these kinds of pistols? And 2 at that. Then, combined with the amazing articulation and the included stand, give this thing some serious posing possibilities. You can really go all out with it. Then we're already at the final accessories that we're getting. We get 2 extra hands, the open palm hands, but there is something special about these, and that is that there is a hole in them, which is for the rocket anchor. Unfortunately, we only get 1 of those tips, so even if you were to cut the cable in 2, you still can only use 1 of them. But because the tip is so light compared to, you know, what usually goes onto the end of these wires, it has no issues whatsoever staying up if you just, for example, have it like that. So compared to other things, it does a very good job, and it fits into a lot of places. It goes into the hand right there, goes onto the backpack on top, goes even at the bottom of the feet, at the tip and at the heel of them. Oh yeah, one thing about these hands is that if you were thinking about using these covers for the holding hands, these are specific for the open palm hands, and that is your lot that you're going to get. Unfortunately, we do not get 1 or 2 of the dual's beam rifles, unlike we do with the Master Grade. But you know, you can always use the one from the blue dual or the dual, or you can buy the weapon set, which also comes with the amazing and also very underrated bazooka. Then finally, because this is of course a Strike Gundam, Striker Pak Compatibility. First up, the old Ale Striker Pak. Fits like a glove. And the only issue you will have with this thing, other than of course the chicken wings, is that the arm's upwards movement is kind of hindered because, well, the Ale Striker Pak does kind of go over the shoulders. Now you will also notice that this is the Slaughter Daggers Ale Striker Pak, and I didn't just pick that for cosmetic purposes only, even though it does look pretty damn amazing with those colors. Now the real reason is the shield brace. The thing is, Strike Noir does not have any kind of connection for a shield. It does not have the option to remove this piece right here to reveal a hole for a shield, like for example you can do with the Master Grade. So the only option is to use the shield brace of the Slaughter Dagger so that you can attach a shield there. The shield brace of either the old or the new Strike will not work. Now this thing isn't a perfect fit, but it does work. So now next up, the new Ale Striker Pak. Once again, as expected, a perfect fit. And this time around, we do have some really nice long wings. One more funny thing is that this black also shows that black isn't just black, because, well, the black of the Ale Striker pack is slightly darker than the black of the Strike Noir. Also, the shoulders now go up slightly more than with the old Ale Striker pack. So next up, the Launcher Striker. And surprise, surprise, it's a perfect fit once again. You might have expected a few issues with the shoulder because, well, it has those obvious fins sticking out, but you can actually remove them so that even the shoulder piece of the Launcher Striker has no issue fitting on there whatsoever. Then the backpack, of course, just goes on there, and the giant Agni just fits perfectly into the hand, supported by his supporting arm. Then next up, the Sword Strike. Unfortunately, the compatibility isn't that perfect, contrary to what I was expecting. The backpack, of course, no issues whatsoever, simply slides in there. The weapons, also a perfect fit. The Agni fits perfectly into the hands, and even the Schwertgewehr has no issues being held by those hands. Something I wasn't really sure on if it was going to be able to hold it that well, but it's not even budging. It's just a great fit. Where issues begin is with the shoulders. Now, when you consider how well, for example, the no-grade Launcher Strike shoulder parts fit, it's surprising that the high-grade counterparts do not. What seems to be the issue is that the holes on the Strike and also the updated Strike are slightly bigger than those on the Strike Noir, meaning that there is a relatively easy fix. If you simply sand down the nubs that connect the shoulder armor to the shoulders, you can make them fit onto the Strike Noir. It really is that easy. And then the final thing, of course, the shield. The brace included with the Perfect Strike is not going to fit on the Strike Noir, but if you're using the shield brace you get from the Slaughter Dagger, you can put this thing on there as well. So with a little bit of work and buying an extra mobile suit, you can make yourself a perfect Strike Noir. Or you can simply buy the one thing that evolved from the Perfect Strike. Next up, the IWSP. The usual compatibility story. The backpack, no issue whatsoever. The shield kind of works, but it's really also the pose I picked for it. The shield is extremely loose in the hand without the use of the brace of a certain model kit. Because, well, the cool thing about the shield is that it does have that handle, but it's really mainly for decorative purposes. I mean, the hand is not holding on to that thing in any way whatsoever. I mean, it is way too thin to be held by the hand, and the handle itself is also extremely weak, so by itself it's not going to support the shield a whole lot unless in very specific action poses like this one. But you know what? The IWSP looks amazing with the Strike Noir, and I always found that even though the Strike Noir is supposed to be an upgraded IWSP, the IWSP, in a way, looks a lot more powerful than the Noir Striker ever did. Mainly because, I mean, those big wings, it looks like this thing could actually fly in the atmosphere as opposed to the Strike Noir, while actually both are able to fly in the atmosphere. But yeah, on to the final Striker pack, the Gun Barrel. And because it's only a backpack, we of course have 100% compatibility. On top of that, because you get the Gun Barrel Striker with the Gun Barrel Dagger, you also get the shield brace. So you can also use the shield of the Gun Barrel Dagger. On top of that, you can also use the weapon of the Gun Barrel Dagger, giving this thing an absolute 100% compatibility. The only thing I was kind of worried about with this combination was that the very bright orange of the Gun Barrel Striker was going to clash with the much darker colors of the Strike Noir. But since there was already a little bit of orange in the Strike Noir itself, I guess it gives a very nice contrast and an overall really nice feel, even though the colors aren't that uniform. And finally, wouldn't it have been amazing if at the beginning of Gundam Seed Destiny, Mula Flaga piloted this? I mean, if Mula Flaga was still alive in Gundam Seed Destiny, of course. Moving on! As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And prepare yourself for probably my most confusing conclusion so far. Absolutely yes, but maybe also kinda no. Now, why this thing is phenomenal should be pretty clear. For 1,500 yen, you're getting a model kit with, for the time, simply amazing articulation that has held up very well. You have to keep into account that this thing is from 2006, which is around the time the Hazels were coming out in high-grade Universal Century. So this was right at that time where the high grades were being transitioned from the older, more bricky model kits to the much more modern ones. So really the only thing this model kit is missing is a double jointed elbow, which, let's face it, not even all modern day kits have. So as far as articulation goes, it's a very modern feeling model kit, and in that aspect has aged extremely well. Then combined with the accessories it comes with, yeah, sure, the dual beam rifles are missing, but like I said, when you combine it with that action base, with that articulation, it is extremely fun to pose with, and just overall a really fun kit. So what could possibly make me say that maybe you don't want to buy this? And well, it's such an advanced kit for the time that it actually suffers from it. I said this thing is extremely fun to pose, but that's also the major issue. The shoulders and also the wrists are plastic rubbing against plastic. Especially on the shoulders, those two ball joints, while they are amazing, I'm afraid they're also going to wear out amazingly fast by just posing them. And yes, of course, it's a model kit, it's not supposed to be an action figure, but the way they are designed really makes me fear that even just posing it around is going to pose a problem relatively quickly, and they aren't, the most solid to begin with, so that really feels like something that's going to require super glue really quickly if you pose them around quite a bit. So it's just so unfortunate. I mean, this is the model kit, you build it on paper, it seems so good. And then it's just because, just because it's so advanced that you do have to be a bit careful with it. But other than that, this is a really nice model kit, and of course the compatibility with the other striker packs also makes this thing something you could really consider buying. But now my final scratch against this model, which is not completely its fault, the Master Grade. And yes, I am also fully aware it's not fair to compare a high grade to a Master Grade, but considering, the slight issues with the Strike Noir in high grade, and considering how absolutely amazing the Master Grade Strike Noir is, I cannot help but say that, you might want to consider saving up for the Strike Noir in Master Grade. Unless you really wanted the 1/44 scale for compatibility with the other striker packs, or just completing your Stargazer collection. But other than that, if you just want a Strike Noir, you just want the Strike Noir, you don't care about any other model kit, I'm sorry to say, but don't get the high grade. It might be very tempting for the price, and yes, it is a very good deal for that price, but you're going to like the Master Grade a whole lot better. You're going to be able to pose it around a whole lot better. And believe me, all the posability of our little high grade here has been beautifully preserved and is even better in the Master Grade, because the Strike Noir did an amazing job in both high grade and Master Grade. And that's also what I really like about the Strike Noir as a model kit. It's not only an upgrade of the regular Strike in universe, but also in real life. I mean, no thank you. Then for size comparisons, first of all, here it is next to the others of the trio, the Blue Duel and the Vert Buster. Then here it is next to a couple of custom Slaughter Daggers, because there is nothing like having the Strike Noir leading a bunch of Slaughter Daggers into battle. And that is also one very good advantage of having the Strike Noir in high grade as opposed to having it in Master Grade. And next to another Slaughter Dagger, because I can, and you can never have enough Slaughter Daggers, especially if they're being led by a Strike Noir. Of course, I had to do this, a comparison of strikes. The Perfect Strike, which ironically is by far the worst one of the three, and the Revive Strike Gundam, which is now the best one of the three. But that still does not take away that for a long time, the Strike Noir was the strike to get in 1/44 scale. Until this guy came along, of course. So, you know, the Strike Noir still had a very nice run of being the best strike around. But even with that being said, the Strike Noir does match up surprisingly well with the Strike Gundam. The modern one, of course. Not the old one. That one has no more reason to be bought. But yeah, if you want any strike in 1/44 scale, the Revive is definitely going to be your pick. And finally, here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.